Hello everybody and welcome to another video, but this is not my usual video. This is not a reaction. So I've been doing Metalhead Reacts now for just over a year, and I thought it was about time that I actually properly introduced myself to all of the people who watch. Well, who is this big beardy English bloke who's sitting there talking about music day in, day out, waffling on about, the meanings behind songs and stuff like that. So I just figured, for those of you that were interested, I would introduce myself. So let's start off with something really simple. My name. Obviously, my name isn't Metalhead, as cool as that would be. My actual name is Mark, or to be more precise, Mark Anthony Pardy, P-A-R-D-Y. And 39 years old, I was born in February of 1980, and I was born in Vegberg, Germany, which was West Germany at the time, I think. I can't remember if it was West or East Germany, can't remember, but it was just outside Dusseldorf. But yeah, I lived in Germany for maybe a year and a half before I moved to England, where I actually spent most of my life living just outside of London. I lived in a place called Hemel Hempstead. Anybody in England might remember it from several years ago, where an oil refinery exploded down in Hemel Hempstead, the Buncefield oil refinery. I actually lived just up the road from there. But yeah, Hemel Hempstead isn't very famous for many other things, except for the TV series Pie in the Sky, detective series Pie in the Sky, that was filmed in Hemel Hempstead Old Town. But enough of that. Now, several years ago, well, I say several years ago, how old was I? Actually, it was many years ago now. Back when I was, I think it was when I was in my 20s. Well, it has to have been in my 20s. I think I was 22 or 23. I moved into the north of England. I mean the proper north, not Manchester. That's not the north. I mean the proper north. Where I met my ex-wife. And I was together with her for 11 years. Had 2 children, Lenore and Vincent. Unfortunately, as you'd expect from the word ex-wife, it didn't last because I was having personal issues and things just weren't working out. So that unfortunately came to an end. And after that had happened, I obviously wasn't living with her, so I ended up moving to another town. I moved to the Lake District. Well, I was living in the Lake District, whether I moved a little further up of the Lake District, in a place called Barrow-in-Furness, which is a place that some people might be familiar with. Lived there for a few years, but then my life took a real nosedive, and things went very bad for me at that point, because I ended up getting into a relationship, and it was a very violent and abusive relationship where my girlfriend at the time would regularly attack me, beat me up, bite me. I mean, she'd leave huge bite marks on my arms and stuff and things. And at one point, I came home from work and she violently attacked me. She broke my jaw and tried to strangle me. Luckily, I had managed to escape the house, but she called the police claiming I'd attacked her. Now, the consequence of this was, obviously, I got arrested. I was in jail for 24 hours. The charges were dropped because, I was covered in cuts and bruises and she had not a mark on her. And but the side effect of that was I was made homeless because I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near her, and we lived in the same house. So I was actually made homeless. I was actually homeless for a year, which was a very unpleasant time of my life. After being homeless for about a year, my uncle called me and said, why don't you come and live with me? So I actually live with my uncle at the moment, and I live about as far north in England as you can possibly get. I could walk about 4 miles that way and be in Scotland. So There we go. Sorry for the depressive tone there. Now that we got that bit out of the way, music has always been a really big thing in my family. It's always been a very important thing in my life. In fact, both my mother and my father worked as radio DJs. They both did radio, as did my uncle and my grandfather. My grandfather did a lot of hospital radio, as did my uncle, and as a result of that, music was always a big part of my life, and I was raised on every kind of music you could possibly imagine. I was raised on country music like Jim Reeves. I was raised on Black Sabbath. I was raised on classical music. I was raised on opera. I was raised on every kind of music you could possibly, imagine. So music has always been a very big thing in my life. Now, obviously, throughout that time, I was listening to things like Uriah Heep, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Motorhead, stuff like that. But the time I properly got into metal, I was about 11 years old. And I just started secondary school or high school, depending what you want to call it. And my older brother, who's he's 4 years older than me. He used to record a TV show of a night called Headbangers Ball on MTV. I think that TV series has long since stopped, but he used to record that show. And every morning before we went to school, because we went to the same high school or secondary school, every morning before we went to school, we'd sit down, we'd have our breakfast and watch the Headbangers Ball he had recorded earlier in the week, in the evening. So, he would be watching that and I was watching it along with him. And, at that time I was introduced to bands such as Hypocrisy, Paradise Lost, Megadeth, Metallica, Carcass, all that sort of thing, things like Entombed, all sorts of music, and there were specific songs that sort of came out during that time. It was about 1991, 1992, and there were things. Hypocrisy had released Obscure and Obscenum, and the track that I heard persistently was The Pleasure of Molestation. It was a track I absolutely fell in love with for some reason. I don't know why. I just really, really liked the track. But then we had things like Paradise Lost. We had Pity the Sadness and As I Die, which were actually off two separate albums, but for some reason they played those two specific tracks quite a lot on the show. And then, of course, there was things like Metallica's One, Carcass's Corporeal Jigsaw Quandary off Necroticism, Discanting Insalubrious, which came out around 91, 92 as well. And then, of course, Megadeth, Symphony of Destruction. Now, I've mentioned several times, Megadeth is they're my favourite band. They were like my gateway band. They were the band that properly got me into metal. And like the first album I ever owned was that Megadeth Countdown to Extinction. I have had this for 4 years. I mean, you can see like the inside of it's a bit sort of tattered and worn. The box is falling apart. So that was the first album I ever owned, and my older brother actually gave that to me because I really liked the band. He was more into Metallica, I was more into Megadeth, and of course that led to the first album I ever bought, Megadeth. So Far So Good, So What. So things sort of went on from there, and this one's actually the actual inside sleeve of this. Oh Christ! The inside sleeve of this is actually printed because I lost the inside sleeve, and that really galled me. I need to get the reissue of it, but that's how I got into metal. Megadeth for some reason are the band that really, really captured my imagination, and despite their music having very strong political overtones, the music itself really caught me. I really enjoyed the music. So, but obviously Megadeth are not the only band I like. I like all sorts of music. I like vast arrays of music. And, I've got my taste in music is so vast. I mean, my music collection on my computer consists of, I think it's 885 different artists. You know, not to mention all the individual albums, 885 artists are in my music collection. So, you know, I have a very, very vast, wide taste in music. And of course, this does vary from the likes of classical music, opera, country music even, to some hip-hop, to varying degrees of metal. There is some pop music that is in there as well. Not ashamed to admit that. I will listen to any music as long as it sounds good to me, and it has some sort of talent behind it. You know, all this sort of electronic music, I don't like that, because it's just some guy in a computer pressing a button constantly. You know, there's no, as far as I'm concerned, there's no real actual talent behind that sort of music. And it gives me a headache. But, you know, I've got several favourite bands. You know, one of my other favourite bands, possibly almost on an equal level with Megadeth, is My Dying Bride. Fantastic band. I've seen them live twice. I've actually met Aaron Stainthorpe, the vocalist of My Dying Bride, you know, and they are a fantastic band. They have been consistently good. But, you know, I like bands like Lacuna Coil, Pop Will Eat Itself, Filter, Carcass, Windear, Agatha Diamond. You know, I could go on for ages about bands that I really enjoy, because, you know, I do have such a huge, wide taste in music. But I mean, if you're talking about the bands that I really love, the bands that I listen to the most, there are obviously going to be things like Megadeth, The Vision Bleak, which I did a video of not so long ago. And then there's bands like Lacuna Coil, big fan of them, huge fan of Lacuna Coil, should I say. And there's bands like Rammstein, stuff like that. And, you know, like I said, my music collection is so huge, I could go on for days listing bands that I really, really enjoy. But, you know, as I said, music has always been a huge part of my life. So, yeah. Now, some of you asked about the sort of things I like to do in my spare time. You know, sort of hobbies I might have, etc. Microphones on one key. You know, what sort of things I like to do when I'm not talking about music. Now, as I said, music is a huge part of my life. So, you know, everything I do, there is always music playing. However, one thing that I do enjoy doing does refer to music itself, and that is this. Now, I can't actually play the guitar for love nor bloody money. I'm hopeless at it. What I mean by this is I actually built this guitar. You know, several years ago, as you heard I mentioned earlier, I was made homeless, and during that time I actually had to sell guitars that I owned. And a few years ago I thought, you know, I'd really like to have guitars again. But of course, guitars are bloody expensive. So I went on the internet and I went on YouTube and I watched loads and loads of videos. I watched this one specific guy who has a channel called Crimson Custom Guitars, and I basically taught myself how to build a guitar. So I could build myself a guitar, and it cost a fraction of the price, and I could have it looking however I wanted. And as you can see, that was the outcome. I mean, it's far from perfect. The paint job is bloody terrible. And yeah, but yeah, I built that guitar myself. And I'm actually building another one at the moment. I've actually got a bass guitar that I'm building, which kind of looks like it was built by made by BC Rich. But you know, that's still in the works. I'm a long way from finishing that one off. So that's one of the things I enjoy doing. You know, I taught myself how to do it, decided to do it, and did it. But other things, you know, I love movies. I watch a lot of movies. I'm a massive movie nerd. I spent 11 years working in a Blockbuster store. I spent a long time working in there. And working in Blockbuster, I was allowed 10 free rentals every single week. Now, if you take that into consideration, 10 free rentals a week for 11 years, I watched a lot of films. I absolutely love my films, and I'm a big fan of foreign films. I've watched and own so many foreign language films, mainly Japanese, Chinese, Korean, quite a few Swedish films as well. Yeah, so I really do love my movies. And obviously, having worked in Blockbuster as well, I am also a big fan of video games. I worked in video game store. I think working in a video game store was actually my first proper job. When I was 18. Oh my god, that's like 21 years ago now. I worked in that was back before even the PlayStation came out, or just as it's just after the PlayStation came out. Sort of N64, Sega Saturn, PlayStation sort of area, just before the Dreamcast, in fact. So I spent several years working in there, and as such, I play a lot of video games. I currently own like an Xbox One, PlayStation 3 and a PlayStation 4, and I own a PC as well, obviously. And the PC I built myself because I actually have a Microsoft qualification for. I actually have an MCDST, which stands for Microsoft Certified Desktop Support Technician. So I actually have a qualification from Microsoft for fixing and building computers. Also, one of my other things, I like to write. Now, I have actually written 2 novels. 517, that was the first one I wrote. It's not very big, not very good, really, if I'm honest. Well, I don't think it's very good. And then I wrote this one. As you can see, it says not for resale because this is the author's proof copy, chilled to the core. And I'm actually working on a 3rd one at the moment. So there you go. I actually write. They're crime thrillers as well. And when I got the first one proofread, when I had 517 proofread, the person who read it told me I needed my head checking because it was so messed up. So there you go. What else can I say? Me as an actual person, believe it or not, I'm actually a very, very shy person. I find it very, very hard to talk to people. If I actually meet people out in public, I'm not very good at starting conversations. If, say, I go to a bar or a pub, I never really initiate a conversation unless I know the person. If there's someone sitting next to me, even if they're like a metalhead or something like that, I never ever start a conversation. I'm actually, believe it or not, a very, very shy person. So I'm somewhat of an introvert. I'm somewhat of a hermit. I very rarely go out anywhere. I don't really go out clubbing or anything like that. Clubbing has never really been my scene. Of course, I was put off clubbing a few years ago when I had a bit of a nasty incident. I went to a club in London called the Electric Ballroom, which was actually quite a nice place. I actually met the band Kill to This when I was there. But I went to a club, I went to the Electric Ballroom, and one night someone spiked my drink with speed and strychnine. So I ended up being whisked off to hospital in the middle of London at about 1:30 in the morning. Which was a bit of a nightmare, but that's when I found out who my friends really were, because all of my friends that I was with walked all the way across London to come and see me to make sure I was okay. But that was a horrible point, and that's one of the main reasons I don't like going out to clubs. Yeah, I'm very, very cautious about that now. But that being said, I haven't really travelled much either. I've only ever actually been outside of England once. Well, I've only ever been to another country once. And I'm not talking about when I was born in Germany and come to England. The only country I've ever been to, I went to the Netherlands. One of my ex-girlfriends lived in the Netherlands. And that was only 3 years ago, when I was 36. I didn't get a passport until I was 36. And Netherlands is the only country I've ever been to. I'd love to go to others, but I just can't bloody afford it. So, there you go. Yeah, I'm not much of a well-travelled person. I mean, my sister lives over in Ireland. In Ireland? I don't know why I said Ireland like that. But, you know, I'd love to go over there and visit her, but I've never actually had the chance yet. And I've got friends like all over the world, but I've never actually had a chance to go and visit them, and I'd really, really like to. I've got a friend who lives in Denmark who keeps asking me to go over and visit, but I just can't bloody afford it. So yeah, as I've said in several of my other videos, I also suffer with severe depression, and I also have a borderline personality disorder as well, which is not very fun, I have to say. I've covered it a few times. It does cause me to have problems with interpersonal relationships, and I can tend to go a little bit off the rails from time to time. I mean, I've never been violent or anything like that, but I can get nasty sometimes. You know, I can say really horrible things and not mean. I mean, for the most part, I like to think I'm a nice guy. But yeah, I don't want to dwell on that subject too much. I've spoken about it a few times in a couple of my other videos. Now, one thing people have asked me to talk about is my band. Now, several years ago, back when I was actually working in the Blockbuster video store, at one time a customer came in, had long hair, had a metal t-shirt on, had his denim with all the patches on it on, and we just got to chatting. And he turned around to me and he goes, you know, would you fancy coming along and, you know, auditioning to be the vocalist for our band? Because we were speaking about all the different kinds of music that we liked, and, you know, I ended up talking about, you know, in fact, he was a guitarist, a very, very talented guitarist. And, you know, I said, you know, I can't really play any instrument. I'm hopeless when it comes to playing instruments, but I do vocals. You know, I've spent years, you know, screaming and growling vocals to songs in my room. So he asked me to come along and have a go. And so I did, and from that point, in sometime around 2010, I was in a band called Repulsive Vision. Now, Repulsive Vision have actually become quite big, not quite big, they've become relatively big at the moment. I mean, they played in the Vargos Music Festival just a matter of days ago. And I know there are some people in bands that, you know, some of the bands that I react to, you know, I've become friends with some of the members of the bands, and I know some of those people were actually at that festival, so they probably will have seen Repulsive Vision playing. And it was with Repulsive Vision that I played alongside Hecate Enthroned. Now, I was in Repulsive Vision from about 2010 till around 2012-2013, which was roughly about the same time that I became homeless. I had a massive mental breakdown, and we played a gig in some place in Barrow-in-Furness, and unfortunately after we'd done our set, I came off stage, and I can't remember what it was, but something set me off, and I went apeshit. You know, I just completely lost my mind. You know, because at the time, you know, I was homeless. I was dealing with the police and stuff because of the fake assault charge and all that. You know, so I was in a very, very bad place at the time, and I kind of went off the rails. So they decided to remove me from the band, which I wasn't too happy about, but I understood it. I mean, they were very annoyed with me because I made a right arse of myself. But thankfully, about a year or so later, I'd been speaking to the drummer, and, you know, he managed to convince the rest of the band, you know, to give me another chance. So around about 2014, I rejoined the band Repulsive Vision, and I continued playing with them for a bit, but of course they were working down in Barrow-in-Furness, and I was living up right on the border of Scotland. And this caused me logistical problems. You know, I was spending 2 hours on the train, and it was costing me 80 quid a week to go to practice, and I just couldn't afford it, so I had to turn around and go, you know what, I really want to keep doing this, but I just can't. I can't afford to anymore. So I ended up having to quit the band, but thankfully, like I say, you know, they got a new vocalist in, and they've been doing very, very well since then. They've released one album, Look Past the Gore and See the Art. they got signed to a record label. They've been touring all over the world. You know, they've played in America. I think they've played in, well, I can't remember all the places they've been, but they have been all over the place, and they're doing exceptionally well, and I could not be more happy for them. Obviously, I would have still liked to have been a part of it, but, you know, circumstances as they were, that was not possible. So, for several years, there was nothing. And at some point, I can't remember when it was, I put up an ad on some random music website saying, you know, I'm a death metal vocalist, and you know, I'm looking for a band to join. And, you know, I didn't really think much else of it. You know, nothing. You know, I wrote it. I think I was, you know, it was late one night. I may have had a couple of drinks. You know, and I never really thought much else of it. And then, sometime sort of mid 2018, I suddenly got an email saying, you know, are you still looking for a band? You know, we're based in Whitehaven. Would you like to come along and, you know, try out? So I had a bit of a conversation back and forwards with the person who sent me the email. We had a bit of a chat and talked to me about the sort of music that they were doing. So I thought, you know, why not? It couldn't hurt. They're a lot closer to me than Repulsive Vision were. And of course, I had access to a car now. So I could drive down there and whatnot. So I went down there and ended up doing a test for them because, you know, they sent me a couple of tracks to listen to and the words to it so I could, practice one of the songs. So, you know, I went there. There was 3 tracks because they actually released an EP, which you can actually get on SoundCloud. I think it's that one, Prepare to Despair by Thy Demise. And so I checked out those songs, practiced them, and I went along and sort of performed with them as a sort of audition. And it went very, very well. I spoke to Ian, the guy who emailed me, and he goes, you know, you did well, very impressed, we'll announce you tomorrow. And that was that. I was then in Thy Demise. Now, the vocal style I use in Thy Demise is different to the one I used in Repulsive Vision. In Repulsive Vision, I was using more the sort of Jeff Walker, Carcass style vocals. You know, the sort of higher pitched growl / scream sort of vocals. Whereas in Thy Demise, I'm sort of more Mikkel Ekefeld era Bloodbath. You know, so it was quite a change in vocal styles for me there, although I do still occasionally put in some Jeff Walker style vocals. And yeah, I've been with Thy Demise for over a year now, I think. Well, yeah, it is over a year. I can't remember exactly how long, but yeah, and I mean, from the 3 songs that we started on, we've now got a good 10, maybe more. You know, we've got merchandise out there, we've got t-shirts, we've got patches and the like. Yeah, and we got patches like that one. And we've actually got t-shirts with that design on it. There's also, you can also get it in black and white as well. And I'm actually hoping at some point we might actually get around to recording either another EP or an album eventually. I would really look forward to that. But yeah, I've been working with Demise since then. We've done a couple of gigs, nothing really high profile. It's been mostly sort of local stuff. Although a little while ago we did do a gig in Barrett, and great time. I actually played alongside my old band, Repulsive Vision. You know, it was fantastic seeing all of them again, because I hadn't actually seen them, all of them, for about 4 years. You know, so it was fantastic to see them again, to play alongside them. So yeah, here we go with that. I can't really think of much else to say about that, because, you know, not much I can say about the band, because we haven't actually had any official releases. We've got a couple of live gig videos up on YouTube, and I did a lyric video for one of our tracks called Own from the Prepare to Despair EP. But there you go. But also, let's get to the channel, Metalhead Reacts. Now, I created this channel in about August of 2018. And I did this purely, well, I'm not going to say purely for selfish reasons, but for some selfish reasons. Because, as I've said many times, I absolutely love music. Music is very important in my life. It's a big part of my life. And I've always been on the lookout for new bands to listen to. And I thought, you know, I really love music. I'm always looking for new bands. What's a great way to do this? So I thought, you know, I've watched all these reaction videos on YouTube. I've watched tons of them. Alex Hefner, you know, I've watched loads of his. Hip Hop Head reacts to all sorts of stuff. So I thought, you know, looked under his video, and everybody's always suggesting new music for him to check out. So I thought, you know, that's probably a great way to find new music. Plus, you know, I can combine it with my passion for music. So I thought, you know, I'll create this channel and, you know, react to music and see what music people suggest to me. I might find some really new, cool and interesting music, and I have. Been fantastic. But one of the other things I decided to do with it was, you know, I watched quite a few other channels that reacted to music, and very, very rarely, if ever, did they talk about the actual band, or did they, you know, they didn't really delve into the actual song itself. They just sort of sat down and went, oh, I like it, or not too fond. And that tended to be the general thing with most of these reaction videos. They were always just like, yeah, I like the song, or no, I don't like the song. So I thought, you know, I'll take my passion for the music, you know, my love for the songs, and, you know, the sort of things I like about the songs, and put that into the video. You know, talk about the meaning behind the songs. You know, talk about what the lyrics are talking about. Talk about the band, who they are, how they got to be here. You know, just sort of investigate, rather than just investigate the music, investigate the band as a whole. You know, and I thought that was something different. I didn't know whether people would like it or not, so, you know, I thought I'd give it a go, and, you know, people have really responded to it, and for that I'm very, very thankful. I mean, I've got over 4,100 subscribers as of this moment, and I'll be completely honest, I never thought I'd even get that far. I never thought I'd get over 1,000, if I'm completely honest. You know, I just thought I might get the occasional person look in and go, oh, what the hell are you talking about, and then just ignore it. But, you know, it seems like some people really responded to it, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. And I'm incredibly grateful to every single one of you out there that watches my videos, and every single one of you that suggests videos. I'm incredibly thankful, you know. And, you know, like I said, it's a great way for me to discover new music, and also, in some ways, it's great for me to sort of maybe help introduce other people to music that they might never have heard of. I mean, I know there are some people that have watched this channel that have never heard of some of the bands that I've played, and they've gone on to enjoy that band's music. Some bands have approached me to promote their albums, you know, and, you know, I'm all for doing that, because I want to help spread music, because, like I said, music is a big thing in my life. I love music. I love everything about it. So if I can help bands promote their music, I will do. I'm not going to consider it selling out, because I'm just trying to help people do what they love, and it's something that I love. So why not? So yeah, there we go. There was a little bit about me. I might have rambled on for a little bit too long, and there might have been some really depressing subject matter in there that maybe some of you might not have wanted to know, but that's just the way it goes. That's who I am. So, yeah. Now you know me a little bit better. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And I'm going to finish my video the way I always do it. If anybody wants to suggest a track for me to react to on my channel, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or even message me on my Patreon, where you could also help to support me and help me create future content, and maybe even improve the quality of that content. And if you do suggest a track, just know it will take a while for me to get around to it, but I do write down every suggestion I get given. It just might take me a while to get around to it, because, you know, I get suggested so many tracks every single day. And of course, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those aimed at people of the alternative culture. Obviously, they want to put an end to all hate crimes, but their hate crimes towards the alternative is their main focus, considering that is how the foundation came into being. And it is a charity that's very, very important to me, because, you know, every day all around the world, people are getting violently attacked just because of the music that they listen to. And, you know, it's unacceptable that this happens. You know, people are getting violently attacked. They're getting really badly hurt just because they've got a difference of opinion on taste in music. You know, you don't attack people because they like different movies or TV shows to you. You don't attack people because they like different books or magazines to you. But why attack people because they like different music to you? It makes no sense. But it happens. And people are getting really, really hurt. Some people are getting hospitalised just for liking alternative music. And it's unacceptable that this is happening. And when it gets to the point where a young woman like Sophie Lancaster loses their life just because of the way they dress and just because of the music that they listen to, you know, I think it's become ridiculous and gone far beyond acceptable. You know, no one should have to lose their life just because they like different taste in music. And it's not even because she likes that taste in music, it's because the people that attacked her didn't like the fact that she liked different music. You can't put the blame on her. You can't say she was attacked because she was different. They attacked her because they didn't like that she was an individual. You know, she thought for herself. She wanted to listen to whatever she wanted to, and everybody's got that right. No one has got the right to tell you otherwise. You know, and when it comes to the point where a young girl dies from being attacked by a group of people, it's far beyond ridiculous anymore. You know, it's unacceptable that someone would lose their life because a group of people didn't like them purely based on their taste in music. It's unacceptable. And this is the sort of thing that the Sophie Lancaster Foundation want to put an end to, because they don't want to see anyone else suffer the way that they suffered when their daughter was beaten to death. They don't want to see anybody else suffer at the hands of intolerant idiots who just can't accept the fact that not everybody is a sheep, not everybody is the same, that people think for themselves. You know, they don't want to see people suffer just because they're being individuals. And I think it's really important. I think it's something that definitely needs more attention. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link in the description below. You can pop over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their goal is, because they can explain it better than I can. And if you can help them in any way, even something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands, which are like £1 on their web store, you know, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we can help stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is. Now you've got to know me a little bit better. Hopefully I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye for now.